So I'm delighted tonight to be with Alex Harrington-Griffin, using technology called Zoom. So Alex is chairing a very popular panel which is coming up on the 18th of July. Alex, your background before property was an organization, if I remember correctly, called Business Crayon. Have I got
That's
that?
correct.
Absolutely, yeah.
Was
So
my
you exited that business and then you've moved on to the property industry. Although, to be fair, your family has got a long background in property as well. Can you let the listeners know a little bit more about your background,
so
both
my
in business crayon and moving into property?
Yeah, so my business background is I started off with Business Crayon, which was an online B2B group buying website. Managed to sell that after about a year to a competitor who was quite well funded, had some good team behind them, quite intimidating, but I thought it was the right time for the business as well. Beyond that, I was a consultant for a few marketing companies, a few retail companies, and actually lived in South Africa and ran a marketing agency. Started working with Knight Frank and Remax, who are very big over there. And through spending time with them, helping them on their content and their sort of social strategy and partnerships, I realized there was a lot of the focus was about getting money back into London and taking advantage of the property market in the UK. So that was 4 years ago now, and having done a little bit of investment in London and having investment properties in London, I decided it was time to come back and sort of take property on head on and use my family's experience to sort of back me and act as mentors and I suppose guide me to where the opportunities may be. But obviously we've developed quite a lot since then, since I've spent time networking in your groups and obviously, you know, keeping abreast of what's happening and getting my own experience doing development and buying land.
Well, we mentioned just before we went live mode as such about the other places where you network, maybe indirectly, but you still do build your network through things like land aid.
Yes.
Do you want to explain to the listeners who land aid is, how it works? And I know you won a recent award through land aid as well.
So Land Aid has been around for about 30 years. They are a property industry charity working with other firms in the property industry, and their focus is to combat youth homelessness. So that's people who may be at risk of potentially being homeless or being in homeless situations, or have already become homeless in some degree and are looking for support either to sort of move away from being on the streets or then to sort of get into healthy, I suppose, routines and work opportunities. So there's major firms like CBRE and Mace who take part in a lot of land aid events, and they offer apprenticeship programs. And then there's I'd say about 45, 50 different organizations who help with the prevention of people getting to sort of risk of homelessness. So there's one that I worked in called Fight for Peace, which I think you mentioned on your description of my background for the event coming up, which is based in East London. They use martial arts and boxing to help people sort of, I suppose, build confidence, build ability, but then they also bolt on things like learning for careers. I used to teach entrepreneurial classes over there as well to a group of about 6 or 8 young people who wanted to start businesses rather than being I suppose, an employee. And it's all about just building confidence and giving them opportunities to make sure they don't sort of become at risk of getting maybe involved in unhealthy cultures or you know, gang culture and those sort of things which are quite prominent in the areas where some of these organizations are based. In terms of networking, for me, there's a lot of young people who are sort of either fresh into property or, you know, maybe done 5-10 years. They do events like the Land Aid 10K. They do the Tower-a-thon every year over in Bishopsgate. I did an event with the...
Sorry, Alex. The Tower-a-thon.
Tower-a-thon, yeah. So it's an abseil. It's a stairwell run, which my colleague did last year with 24 kilograms on his back. That's 36 flights of stairs. So you can imagine how grueling that is as a triathlete as well. And they do a spin sort of challenge as well. And that's on the 24th of September, I think, most years. Well, it has been the last 2 years anyway. And then they do Land Aid Day, which is in October normally. So it's basically just property professionals and companies getting together, either raising awareness or raising funds, all with a focus on trying to sort of combat youth homelessness or do what they can. And Land Aid's mission is by, let me get this right, I think it's by 2018 to basically eradicate youth homelessness.
Sure, which is an amazing achievement if they can achieve that or get close to that. Look, in terms of networking and property and your property journey, we've been discussing about sometimes you may face obstacles because of your age. Um, sometimes it may be from financiers, sometimes it may be from vendors. How have you overcome challenges yourself like that?
I think the number one thing, which I'm sure most people, whether they're under 35 or over 35, will agree with, is just building up your knowledge. If you can talk about things in the right way. I started off my sales career working in curries, and until you knew about the products you were selling, you kind of had to just fake it, to be honest. And there's never anything that feels that great about having to just sort of blag your way through trying to sort of build trust or to sell to someone as well. So building up your knowledge, I think, gives you the confidence to be able to explain that no matter what your age or your experience, you're able to do what is needed. That doesn't mean some people don't have preconceptions because of your age or whatever else, but I think the biggest tool you can build up is your knowledge. Your knowledge and your confidence in the industry gives you the ability to help build trust that someone, thinks, doesn't matter if you're 21, 31 or 61, that you can still do what you need to do.
Sure. And of course, in a way, you've been fortunate because of your family background as well, being in property. What are you doing on a daily or monthly, or what type of projects are you working on or have worked on in the last 6 to 12 months or going forward?
So we've done a little bit of development. We've done some conversion from commercial to residential, which we finished in October. My family, or my father directly, has spent a lot of time of his career. He's mostly retired now, but he spent a lot of his career working on obtaining sites without planning permission, adding value through gaining planning, and then selling the sites on to developers who were looking for sites with consent. So I suppose I've kind of mirrored a little bit of what he's done, but I also enjoy the role. And within our team at Coeur de Lion, we spend a lot of time making sure that our planning skills are up to date, and that's where we really feel like we sort of offer a lot of value at the moment. So as much as we are developing small projects that we think are really suitable for our product, most of our focus is on land and obtaining planning for vendors, others joint ventures, or securing the land and then looking to trade on once we've gained planning.
So, Alex, with reference to and I could easily go on, and I didn't say it was going to be a short interview, but I don't want to take too much of your time up tonight.
I've got some time.
Okay. In terms of the panel on the July the 18th, 18 to 35-year-olds, and those on the panel include Sarah Nasralli. You've got the likes of Ryan Carruthers, easier to pronounce than spell. He's been awarded last year the HMO Deal of the Year, and quite an amazing pedigree of people who were on that judging panel. If I've got it right, the likes of Richard Bowser from Property Investor News magazine. You've got the likes of Shawbrook. I think David Sanderman from Essential Information Group was on that panel as well. I'm almost certain Ranjan Bhattacharya was on that panel. Cyril Thomas. So lots of well-established names and organizations, and to be fair, I think there's 12 people who were on that judging panel. Yeah. So that's Ryan. You've got the likes of Rocco Versace from Avamore. You've got Rob Wilkinson, who's we've developed with us now. So those are some of the names, and Jackie Toms as well. What do you think is going to be one of the most important questions on the evening for the panel to answer?
In terms of what? In terms of the easiest question?
Well, in terms of, do you think it's going to be the key question or one of the key questions is going to be about how they overcome obstacles in terms of the age factor, the age barrier?
I think it's twofold. I think people are going to be interested in, as a younger person or someone who's got maybe less experience, not necessarily maybe young, but less experience, how do you overcome, or how do you build enough trust with someone to say, it doesn't matter how old you are, how long you've been in the industry, I know you've got what it takes to get, whether it's a development off the ground or to buy land or to get planning through or to get something financed. It doesn't matter what age you are, you've still got the ability to do it because you've got the right knowledge and you've got the right network. And the other side, I think, is always going to be interesting. We came from a meeting today, so we had a meeting in Beaconsfield with 2 developers who are looking to buy a site from us in Gloucestershire. One of the gentlemen's slightly more mature, and then he's working with a younger developer as well as a partner. For them, I think the appeal is the fact that they get a bit of a new perspective. As you and I said on the phone earlier, I don't think no matter what industry you've been in, for you and from events, for me, from marketing, backgrounds, the longer you're in the industry, the more you just see things the way they are. And sometimes you don't even question why things are done in a certain way. So whether you're an agency, developer, solicitor, accountant, you just form into a sort of routine if that's how the way things are done. And sometimes when new people come into the industry, I think especially maybe younger people, because almost that naivety is a bit of a benefit, they get a chance to look at things from a fresh perspective and say, well, okay, I appreciate that's the way it's always been done, but what if you try something different? And I think that's where the potential maybe for more mature, I'm 33, so I'm sort of not, I'm not near the bottom of the base, but I'd say maybe for more established or longer term, more experienced developers, maybe they get a benefit from looking at working with younger people, is to get some fresh ideas, to almost use that sort of inexperience to kind of look at things freshly and say, well, what could we do things differently? Fair enough, that's how it's always been done, but let's see what we could do different. You've got to innovate. My dad's always said, it's the dinosaurs die and the chameleons live. You've got to be able to adapt and change. And we're in really interesting times at the moment. From my short experience, I know this, most people are saying it is tough. And you've got to adapt and change to what is happening around you. So maybe it's
certainly some trends you see more so now, possibly because it's the circles I'm in. The likes of Nicole Bremner raising significant amounts of money through crowdfunding. I think about 6 million in the space of probably 9 months. And also maybe some people are interested in the event because I've seen huge amounts of interest, possibly because they think the younger people who are on the panel may be optimizing social media in a different way to how people like myself. I don't like to call myself an older person, but I'm 39. Snap. When I grew up, Facebook was literally just it. There was also LinkedIn, but I have to admit I never used LinkedIn until probably about 5 years ago, maybe 6, 7, something like that, but certainly not as early as Facebook. But now there's so many different platforms as well, like the likes of Snapchat and Instagram. So look, I know you've got a marketing branding background as well, and people really probably see the importance of either understanding crowdfunding as a potential investor or maybe using that platform themselves to fund deals. So I know the evening's not specifically about branding or value proposition or marketing, but what's your views on social media and property and branding? And it could take a whole hour, Alex.
Yeah. The short answer is, I think people are always looking for new ways to innovate and to be able to market themselves in a way that feels fresh. Everybody knows, how traditionally properties are marketed. The platforms like Zoopla and Rightmove and even sort of more recently Purple Bricks has changed all of that. As those will start to advance even further, people move away from traditional ways of selling things, but also the onus is going to be on a lot of developers to come up with their own creative campaigns and how they market themselves. So maybe one thing we could touch on at the event and probably build a little bit of discussion with maybe the attendees as well is maybe what platforms, what technology, what social channels are maybe some of the younger developers or people involved in property comfortable with, that they could maybe bring new ideas through those platforms to maybe more established and more mature developers.
Sure. Alex, I just want to say huge thanks for joining myself. I want to say huge thanks to the listeners. Look, in August, I'm taking a break from events except for my members. I've got some events coming up for members, but for my regular meets, that they take a break in August, partly because I want to focus on how best I can work with my members and what I can do differently, and just to give me a little bit of a break as well, just to give me a fresh perspective. how can people connect with you, Alex? Is it best to connect on Twitter or which platform?
Twitter's always the best for me. It's the one I'm most active on. So as much as I know that for marketing potential developments or your company, there's several different platforms which I use. I religiously use Twitter. I quite enjoy it. It's a bit of banter on there as well between Nicole Bremner is always a good laugh, and her team are always up for a bit of a crack as well. So Alex_H_Griffin on Twitter, or you can email me, alex@cdlproperty.com.
Alex, I just want to say huge thanks for taking time out tonight. I want to say huge thanks to the listeners as well, and I look forward to seeing you on the 18th of this coming month. Huge thanks, Alex. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Cheers, Brendan.